Bronson Reed sends a message to Cody Rhodes' wife, the best and worst of WWE SmackDown. Chelsea Green reacts to her husband, Zack Ryder's return on SmackDown. Does Charlotte Flair hate Rhea Ripley in real life? Jade Cargill makes a huge demand after SmackDown. Braun Strowman's food show viewership and ratings beats both WWE and AEW. Paul Heyman manipulates Cody Rhodes into making a horrible decision. Paul Heyman's consequences for tricking Nick Aldis into bringing back Drew McIntyre. Jey Uso's real-life friend upset at his push. Let's dive right in. The best and worst of WWE SmackDown. The latest episode of SmackDown saw the progression of the feuds and storylines for Survivor Series. The show has been under the fans' radar lately due to its degrading quality and lack of compelling elements. However, comparing the past few episodes of the Friday Night SmackDown, last night's show turned out to be a little better. Triple H apparently made sure to give the WWE Universe a delightful show at the MVP arena. The feuds and storylines for the two War Games matches shifted gears, and Ilya Dragunov also continued his United States Championship Open Challenge. Besides, WWE also pulled off a massive surprise return in the Last Time Is Now tournament. Let's take a look at the best and worst of this week's episode. Number 1, the best. Bringing Zack Ryder as a shock factor. Friday Night SmackDown was lacking any substantial return or surprise element for months. Well, Triple H took that problem into notice and pulled off a jaw-dropping surprise last night. Zack Ryder made his much-anticipated return to the main roster as a mystery opponent for LA Knight in the Last Time Is Now tournament. The moment his theme song hit the arena, it swept fans away in nostalgia, taking them back in time. Ryder's return on SmackDown was a delightful surprise for the WWE Universe, something that fans have been clamoring for the past few months. John Cena's tournament needed some non-WWE names, and Zack Ryder's involvement made things intriguing. Number 2, the worst. The only women's match was a squash match. SmackDown featured 5 matches in total. Jey Uso and LA Knight beat The Miz and Zack Ryder, respectively, in the Last Time Is Now tournament. Ilya Dragunov bested Axiom in a U.S. title open challenge match. Cody Rhodes wanted to fight Bronson Reed a week after facing Aleister Black. The lone SmackDown match featuring the women involved Jade Cargill squashing B-Fab. The match was essentially to showcase the Storm's dominance, but the whole bout was shorter than Cargill's entrance and post-match antics. It still felt like a misuse of the women's division since Julia was barely featured, and Chelsea Green was relegated to a quick backstage segment. Number 3, the best, giving LA Knight a much-deserved victory on SmackDown. LA Knight has been struggling to get into the spotlight for the past 3 weeks as his booking turned upside down. The once hot Knight is now submerged under the ocean of obscurity on the main roster. However, Triple H finally gave him a direction last night by making him win the first round of the Last Time Is Now tournament on SmackDown. The megastar defeated Zack Ryder clean to advance in the contest. It was a much-needed victory for him to revive his momentum and get into the spotlight. WWE did the right thing by handing him that win, as a loss could have taken a toll on his current run. LA Knight finally has something substantial to look forward to in the coming weeks. Number 4, the worst. A predictable pairing on SmackDown. Jey Uso predictably defeated The Miz in the first round of John Cena's Last Time Is Now tournament. When the pairing was announced, it wasn't the most exciting duo since they're on different trajectories. The Miz has been in a tag team with Carmelo Hayes, while Jey has been in matches for the World Heavyweight title. It was clearly a decision to get the Yeet Master an easy win in the first round. The pairing was still disheartening since 2 other competitors, LA Knight and Solo Sikoa, had mystery opponents. Number 5, the best. Keeping things natural between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. Last week on Raw, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky came to the aid of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. It looked like 4 members of the babyface team for the Women's War Games match were locked in. However, WWE pulled off a twist in the story last night on SmackDown when the Queen refused to team up with Sky and Conley, citing her bitter history with the Eradicator. Well, it was just the right move. Ripley and Flair do have a tremendous history. The once bitter rivals simply teaming up with each other, pretending as if nothing had happened between them, would have been weird. Therefore, Triple H giving a nod to their past animosity and showcasing tensions between them was just the right call. It made things look more natural and organic. Number 6, the worst. Ignoring a Survivor Series tradition. The staple of past Survivor Series events has been the traditional elimination matches. Whether 5-on-5 or 4-on-4, these multi-star contests defined the event for over 25 years. With a lot changing over the last few years, Triple H has opted against having traditional elimination matches as part of the event with War Games. The cage matches still work with the Survive theme, but elimination is not part of them. Instead of adding a 5-on-5 to Survivor Series War Games, Aldis announced that Solo Sikoa and the MFTS will face Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Rey Fenix, and the Motor City Machine Guns on the SmackDown before the PLE. It feels like a cop-out since they were building towards a War Games match with these two sides, but instead chose to go with another bloodline-focused cage clash. The stakes are higher on that side, but having the same 5 or 6 people in the match every year gets repetitive. Roman Reigns will just leave after the event and show up on the first Raw of 2026. Number 7. The best. Adding Drew McIntyre to the men's War Games match. One of the best decisions Triple H made this week on SmackDown was adding Drew McIntyre to the men's War Games match. The Scottish Warrior became the 4th member of Braun Breaker's team for Survivor Series. McIntyre joining the heel team for War Games was the perfect move, as he has a history with all the members of the babyface team. Drew McIntyre's deep-rooted animosity with the Usos, his bad blood with CM Punk, and his current rivalry with Cody Rhodes make his addition very reasonable. This will add more drama and intensity to the men's War Games match, making the clash riveting. Hence, adding the Scottish Warrior to the heel team for Survivor Series. War Games was poetic justice number 8. The worst? Where's the bracket for the Last Time Is Now tournament? Whenever a wrestling promotion has a tournament, and AEW holds one at least 3 times a year, they always have a bracket showing the pairings and rounds helps fans to follow it from start to finish. The Last Time Is Now has been the opposite of the usual practice. Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis have simply announced the pairings over the last 2 weeks on Raw and SmackDown. They haven't released a graphic to show the matchups for the next round. All fans know is that Jey Uso, Rusev, Sheamus, and LA Knight have advanced. As to who they'll face next, it's anyone's guess. Having a bracket is a no-brainer for the Last Time Is Now tournament, unless they're simply having 2 fatal 4-ways and haven't told the fans. Chelsea Green reacts to her husband, Zack Ryder's return on SmackDown. Zack Ryder recently made a surprise return to WWE to have his first main roster match in 5 years. The former Intercontinental Champion was the mystery opponent for LA Knight in the first round of John Cena's The Last Time Is Now tournament. Despite putting up a strong fight, he was unable to overcome the megastar, who picked up the win after hitting Ryder with a BFT. Ryder became one of the biggest stars in the independent circuit as the Indie God, while wrestling under his real name, Matt Cardona. Following his return, his real-life wife, Chelsea Green, uploaded a backstage photo with him with the following message: "What a day to be Zack Ryder's wife." In an interview with Gabby AF, Chelsea Green spoke about her husband, Matt Cardona's, incredible run in the independent circuit. She claimed that he had completely changed the perception of independent wrestling. "I know that I am biased, but he is by far, quite possibly, the best indie wrestler to ever come out of the indies. If you had asked me 6 years ago if I ever thought he could cut it on the indies, I'd have said, not a chance. He has proved everyone wrong. All they saw him as was this typical babyface, boy band member. He has done a complete 180, changed everyone's opinion of not only him, but the independent scene, and how you can make a living off of it. And he will go down in history as one of those people that forever changed professional wrestling independently," Green said. Zack Ryder has been making appearances under his real name on WWE NXT and was part of the Invasion angle earlier this year. While he is primarily associated with TNA, it remains to be seen if his return was a one-off or if he is back permanently in the Stamford-based promotion. After the match, Triple H decided to take a photo with Zack Ryder after the star finally returned to WWE SmackDown after multiple years away. He posted about the Last Time Is Now tournament and how anyone could show up there, and that the tournament was all about opportunity, and that was precisely what Ryder had seized for himself. He hinted again that anyone could show up. This seems to be a reference to what will happen next week, as the opponent of Solo Sikoa on Raw has not been announced yet. Anyone could return and face him, but fans will have to wait and see who it could be. You never know who might show up in the Last Time Is Now tournament. It's all about opportunity, and at the Matt Cardona proved that tonight. Now that he has shown up on SmackDown, albeit in what appears to be a one-off appearance for the tournament to face John Cena, there's no telling if he will appear again in a more permanent role for the company. Could he be a star who returns regularly for the company and becomes a full-time part of the roster? That's a question only Triple H can answer. Either way, his return has been a long time coming. Given the success he has earned in the indies to become the top name not associated with a big company, he has done everything and won many belts. It remains to be seen what's next for him. Does Charlotte Flair hate Rhea Ripley in real life? This week on SmackDown, Charlotte Flair refused to join Rhea Ripley's team for the Women's War Games match at Survivor Series. The Queen addressed her deep-seated animosity toward Ripley, expressing her dislike for the latter. The multi-time women's champion called the Eradicator a snake and made it clear that she still holds resentment towards Mommy. This has made a lot of fans wonder whether the two stars actually despise each other behind the scenes. However, that is not the case. Charlotte Flair doesn't hate Rhea Ripley in real life. The tension that was shown on SmackDown was purely a part of the storyline. It was a scripted drama designed to make the Women's War Games match more intriguing. WWE loves to mine the archives of actual in-ring history to create emotional stakes in present-day storylines. Well, Flair and Ripley have a tremendous history, and the two women have been on opposite sides of the ring. Therefore, the Queen simply joining the babyface team, pretending as if nothing happened between her and Mommy, would have been awkward. However, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair are good friends in real life. Both have praised each other in several interviews in the past. They have tremendous respect for each other and share a healthy bond behind the television screens. Regardless of what's shown on SmackDown, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair are two of the biggest stars of the women's division, having a storied history. They faced each other twice, once at WrestleMania 36 and another at WrestleMania 39, giving two blockbuster matches that redefined women's wrestling in WWE. It looks like Flair's thirst hasn't been quenched yet, as she wants another match with Ripley at the Show of Shows. During an interview with Daniel Cormier for ESPN in April 2025, the Queen expressed her desire to go up against the Eradicator again. Charlotte Flair stated that she wants to complete her WrestleMania trilogy with Rhea Ripley and is keen on having that third match soon. She hopes to get in the ring with the Eradicator very soon. It's not just wishful thinking, but it's inevitable storytelling rooted in their elite chemistry. It will be interesting to see whether that happens down the line and if WWE is planning to write another chapter in the rivalry between Flair and Ripley now. Without her, the team will have to find a replacement star for their coming War Games match, which won't be easy given that Jax, Legend, and the Kabuki Warriors are on a mission to destroy them. Protect your peace. Charlotte Flair did not have the best reputation stepping out of her feud with Tiffany Stratton. Both stars had gotten personal with one another, taking digs at each other, with the feud having some very real heat. However, now since stepping away from that feud, it can be said that things got better for her with Alexa Bliss returning. Their friends but not friends team was something that the fans loved, and both stars got really over. Flair, for the first time in a while, was being cheered regularly. Now it remains to be seen what will happen after she abandoned Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, and Io Sky. Jade Cargill makes a huge demand after SmackDown. WWE star Jade Cargill is on a dominant run as the women's champion on SmackDown. She defeated Tiffany Stratton for the title. Ever since defeating Tiffy Time for the WWE Women's Championship at Saturday night's main event, Jade Cargill has had a career rejuvenation on the blue brand. She has unleashed pure domination on SmackDown with an edgy new attitude. Last week, she announced her arrival as the new women's champion. This Friday, she took down B-Fab in a singles match. The disrespect from Jade continued after the match, as Mission showed up to defend her friend and confronted the champ. This week's confrontation between Jade and Mission sparked off a war of words on social media between the two stars. Mission made it clear that the champ was underestimating her, and Jade would be in for a harsh surprise if the two ever collided in the ring. Cargill was open to the challenge and mentioned that she was big on charity, handing out a match to the star. The champ even reached out to SmackDown general manager Nick Aldis. She instructed Aldis to make the match official between the two stars. This week on SmackDown, Jade Cargill showed her true strength as she dominated B-Fab. The singles encounter ended in less than 3 minutes, with B-Fab barely getting in any offense. Cargill ended the contest with a Jaded on B-Fab. Tensions escalated after the match, with Mission coming down to save her friend. Jade had a tense exchange with the star, which ended with the champ shoving Mission into the ground. Jade has been booked as a monster heel and dominant champion on SmackDown. It will be interesting to see if Mission can prove to be a challenge to the women's champion when their paths cross in the future. Braun Strowman's food show viewership and ratings beats both WWE and AEW. Braun Strowman has just done the unthinkable, but unfortunately, it appears that the success may not last long. A report has emerged about the situation. Braun Strowman's food show is a huge success. The recent viewership and ratings beat both AEW Dynamite and WWE NXT. Despite both the wrestling shows being in better slots than the food show Friday at 10 p.m., isn't even considered a great time slot either. The show did huge numbers on USA Network, with SmackDown as the lead-in. The show hit 533,000 viewers last week, making for a huge number. Unfortunately, as per Fightful Select, the show's crew is still unsure whether there will be a second season as of now. It was reported earlier that WWE SmackDown would return to 3 hours starting in January. This would likely mean that it would take up the slot where Strowman's show airs, unless SmackDown airs an hour earlier. That seems uncertain at this time. It is always possible that Strowman's show moves to a different time slot. Baron Corbin took the time to call out the fact that there were now reports that WWE was looking to make SmackDown a 3-hour show from January 2 again. They want Braun's time slot! The food show is crushing! He said that Braun Strowman's show was a huge success, and this was the company's way of taking that slot away from him to try and get that viewership for themselves. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer pointed it out, and Strowman then reposted it, sharing the secret to his success. It did 533,000 viewers and 0.13, so it beat Dynamite. It beat NXT, which is on a network station. It beat it on a Friday night at 10, which is not even a good time slot. It remains to be seen whether the show is renewed or loses the spot to WWE after all. Paul Heyman manipulates Cody Rhodes into making a horrible decision. In a moment when it was noted that Cody Rhodes was thinking with his heart and not his head, Paul Heyman goaded him into making a horrible decision on the November 14th episode of SmackDown. General Manager Nick Aldis was a busy man as always, and he was unpleasantly surprised to see Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed waiting outside his office. After bringing them in, Heyman wanted to confirm with him that he could recruit his 4th War Games team member from any brand. Nick Aldis mocked him because it was clearly stated in the contract, and he didn't need to fly all the way to Albany, NY, to clarify that. However, things got interesting when the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes showed up. He had a standoff moment with Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman manipulated him into putting his WWE title on the line on SmackDown. Nick Aldis told Cody Rhodes very clearly that he was quite aware of what Heyman was doing, but Rhodes didn't care and told Aldis to book the match for the main event of SmackDown with the WWE Championship on the line. It was a moment of weakness for the undisputed WWE champion, who was clearly provoked by Heyman, who gave his wicked smile in the background. It seems like WWE is going with a 4 versus 4 situation for the men's and women's War Games matches this year, and Rhodes explained his participation in the match. He told Heyman that he knew once the vision had cleared CM Punk and Jey Uso, he was going to be next, and his involvement was to make sure that it didn't happen. Things got quite heated in the backstage segment, but at the very least there was a Blockbuster World Championship main event that came out of it. Paul Heyman's consequences for tricking Nick Aldis into bringing back Drew McIntyre. In the latest episode of WWE SmackDown, Paul Heyman tricked Nick Aldis by revealing Drew McIntyre as the latest member of Team Vision's War Games match. The National Treasure suspended the Scottish Warrior last week for attacking a WWE referee during the main event. However, the return of McIntyre after suspension made Aldis furious, and he was seen ranting at the Oracle ringside. Heyman argued that the member for the War Games match could be anyone, even the suspended star. The actions of Heyman eventually defy Nick's commands. Due to this, the ex-Wiseman could face some consequences. We will look at 3 potential aftermaths he can face. For tricking the SmackDown general manager, Nick Aldis is surely unhappy with Heyman's actions, and because of that, he could suspend the Oracle. The National Treasure is known for his solid decision-making, as the authority figure getting tricked by the Vision manager can lead to consequences, as Nick might suspend the former advocate, which would eventually leave his faction helpless. With this, Heyman won't be able to help make a strategy against Team CM Punk. The return of Drew McIntyre also implies that the Scottish Warrior has no interest in following the commands of Nick Aldis, so with Heyman bringing him back from suspension, Aldis might take a bold step by firing McIntyre from the Stamford-based promotion. Although this will be part of a storyline, firing McIntyre would make him ineligible to compete at WWE Survivor Series, leaving the Vision high and dry. Paul Heyman and the Vision are currently part of the WWE Raw brand, and they only appeared on the Blue brand to send a message to Cody Rhodes and his War Games team. However, after Heyman and McIntyre joined forces, Nick Aldis might decide to split the Vision faction by moving the Oracle to the Friday night show. With this, the National Treasure will solely move the ex-Wiseman to the Blue brand, leaving the villainous faction alone on the Red brand. The breakup of the Vision from Paul Heyman could lead to disruptions, as the Hall of Famer is the one keeping the group together. So, these could be the potential consequences the Vision manager might face for his actions against Nick Aldis on WWE SmackDown. Jey Uso's real-life friend upset at his push. Jey Uso defeated The Miz in the first round of John Cena's The Last Time Is Now tournament. Earning a spot in the quarterfinals, the former world heavyweight champion put up a strong fight and emerged victorious after a spear and Uso splash combo. While the record tag team champion was quite happy with his win, one of his real-life friends wasn't too happy about it. Xavier Woods, one half of the New Day, voiced his disapproval of WWE pushing Jey Uso on Twitter. Woods replied to WWE's post on X about Uso advancing to the quarterfinals with a one-word reaction, "Boo!" He wrote. It remains to be seen who Uso will face in the quarterfinals. The matches for the next round will take place on the November 24th edition of WWE Raw and the November 28th edition of SmackDown. So far, Sheamus, Rusev, and LA Knight have qualified alongside the Yee Master. Uso recently missed out on an opportunity to reclaim the World Heavyweight Championship against CM Punk at Saturday night's main event. While speaking on his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T explained why he might have trouble returning to the World Championship picture. Jey Uso, I think he's solidified in that position, but he's going to have to work his A off to get back to the World Championship. That's what I'm talking about as far as being in shape. He can't rest on his laurels. He can't think that one World Heavyweight Championship is just going to be guaranteed for him to go back to that spot ever again. That's not the way it works. For the time being, Uso remains involved in the main event picture, with a War Games match in the works at Survivor Series. Bronson Reed sends a message to Cody Rhodes' wife. The November 14th edition of WWE SmackDown featured Bronson Reed competing against Cody Rhodes in the main event for the WWE Championship. With the Oscilla laid out in the timekeepers area, Rhodes was taken out by Logan Paul and Braun Breaker. Despite being assisted by the Usos, the American Nightmare suffered a beatdown, as the Vision was joined by Drew McIntyre. The Scottish Warrior took out Rhodes with a Claymore, and the Oscilla then crushed the WWE Champion with a Tsunami. On X, Brandy Rhodes wrote that the Usos were invited to their Thanksgiving dinner, but wished the driest turkey on Bronson Reed and his friends. Usos are invited to Thanksgiving again. I wish the driest turkey on Bronson Reed and his friends, she wrote. Reed replied to Brandy, reminding her that he was Australian and didn't celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm Australian, I don't celebrate that, shay, Reed replied. Last week on the Blue branded show, Drew McIntyre was suspended by SmackDown general manager Nick Aldis. The Scottish Warrior took out the referee during Rhodes' match against Aleister Black, still angry about his defeat at Saturday night's main event. However, he returned this week after Paul Heyman told Aldis that he could recruit anyone from the Blue brand for Team Vision at Survivor Series. War Games with the Usos gaining the advantage over the Vision, McIntyre emerged from out of nowhere to take Cody Rhodes out with a Claymore kick. He then took the War Games contract from Paul Heyman and joined forces with the faction for Survivor Series, with the heels now having a 4th member. It remains to be seen who the last spot goes to as the build to Survivor Series continues.